Here we go.
G'day, fans, and welcome to what I think is the 50th episode of this series. Can you believe it? If I recall, we did 42 episodes last year, and this is the 8th episode for this year. 50 episodes of Aaron and I talking about collectibles and other stuff. How absolutely insane is that? Mr. Aaron, how you going, old son?
That's nearly 100 hours of champagne comedy, isn't it? So yeah, I've had an interesting day. How have you been today?
Oh, yes, I've heard all about your day, and I'm sure some of the people in this show have done so as well, and we're going to get to that in a moment. As for champagne comedy, you probably want to drink the champagne more than listen to the comedy, because I tell you what, after listening to hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours of us, you would certainly need to have a bit of a tipple, I think. So, yes, very, very good. Gavin's actually said, fellow crazies. Yes, okay, we sort of need to give... our audience a new nickname, we call them writers when they come on the show, but people who are actually watching this show, you do sort of wonder, eh? Rico's already said to fire Curly and Pittman. Who the hell's Pittman? I thought it was Larry.
Oh no, Pittman is his last name.
Oh, he's actually got a last name, has he? So there you go. That reminds me of like Wicket W. Warwick from Return of the Jedi. Since when do Ewoks have middle names and last names? So ridiculous. So there you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yes. So before we get on to the excitement of what happened to you last night, other than that, how are you doing, old son? How are you traveling?
Yeah, good. It's just been a busy day. So had some stuff turn up for Greg King's Stranger Things, which is good, and more stuff they tried to deliver and I had to knock back. Interesting stuff's come into the shop in more ways than one.
Good stuff. Good to see Glennis has joined us. I'd like to hi to everyone, Glenn. So you're saying hello to yourself there, Mr. Glennis. So there you go. Hello to us. And Gavin has said if you put you and I together, you get dragons. I don't know. He's thinking about that too hard, in my opinion. So there you go. Call us rippers. Oh, there you go. Well, in fact, the fact that you guys are all watching us is absolutely fantastic. And yes, as far as Aaron and I are concerned, you are rippers to us. All right, I guess we should get on to the big excitement for today. For those who don't know what's happened, so as you well are aware, or you may not know, Aaron has his own collectible store in Blackburn, and as you can see from this photograph, everything at the front looked absolutely fantastic. Until was it late last night? What happened, Mr. Aaron?
Well, someone wanted to do some, I guess, late night shopping when we weren't open. Either that or the restraining bolts got off the droids and they wreaked havoc. But yeah, a car ended up through the front window of the shop.
See, that's what you call like desperate after hours trading. There's like, mate, I'm so desperate to get in there after hours to buy. I got to buy some stuff, mate. I've got to get through. Or the person is a Marvel fan and can't stand DC.
Well, you stole my joke. I was going to say they really don't like DC. You can see in that first picture, the police are there, and there was a fire engine and a couple of cars. And by the time I rocked up, all the excitement was over. But it was after hours at about 8 o'clock last night, and apparently a learner driver was doing a U-turn and hit the accelerator instead of the brake, mounted the curb, managed to deftly miss the bushes that might have stopped her, and missed the seat that might have stopped her, and head straight into the shop. So I found out through social media because someone across the road took pictures and posted it and then sent a message to our Google page. Chad saw that. Chad contacted me, and then I contacted the person who had left the message, and they're like, yeah, there's a car in your shop. So that was my night last night.
See, now this is a comment that's come through, and this has got winner chicken dinner all over. Even Dicko has said, mate, just open up a drive-through service. I mean, you're halfway there. How good is that?
Like to point out, Dicko is like 500 meters up the road from us. So lazy. Drive-through service. Unbelievable.
Go through and get yourself your collectibles. Or you're right, as Colin has said, maybe it was the SJ service customer service team who decided to pay you a visit from Greg King's Cheaper Things. So yes, how about that? So what's the status today, old son?
Well, I was there waiting for them to do, because when you have a broken window, you have to wait for the council and everyone to board it up, take away all the glass and make it safe and send the street cleaner around. So I was there quite a bit last night. They boarded it up. Now it looks like we've had a zombie apocalypse because there's now just steel boards up. And I felt like going outside and putting Dead Inside or something like it from The Walking Dead. But I thought, oh, maybe they need their boarding back after they've finished with it. But we're opening. The shop is secure. The droids can't get out, and Chad and I are safe.
Exactly. As Colin said, yeah, it's Aaron's drive-through collectibles. I would have laughed. I would have cacked myself laughing if you had said, oh, the police turned up, and they go, oh, mate, have you got some action figures and Batman figures and Marvel figures? And you go, absolutely, open the door, come in and spend up big. Or the dude who crashed the car. You should have said, well, dude, you're obligated to spend a couple of $1,000 in here now. Find a cabinet, pick it, and buy everything that's in it, whether you like it or not.
Well,
so,
what do you reckon? The car was long gone by the time I was there. The police were still there, and you joke about that, but they did come in and spend about an hour looking through the shop as well. So they didn't buy anything, though. But, yeah, they were really interested in the collectibles.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, the important thing is that obviously damage inside the store was minimal, if non-existent. It's just mainly the facade. But as you said to me before we went on air, to replace the glass is easy, but to replace the DC sticker on the right there, they have to do that from the inside. And of course, if you know the store, the inside is just full up to the ceiling, full of all these heavy books and boxes and all that other stuff. So
yeah, it's the worst place to get to. The guy I spoke to today, because I had to ring them for insurance and everything, said, oh, it was really lucky that his instincts cut in and he grabbed onto the handbrake and pulled on the handbrake. Otherwise, they would have gone a lot further into the shop. So I guess it could have been worse.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So, yeah, and I do like the fact that someone's just taking pictures and go, oh, get a load of this. There's a car inside a store. So, I mean, where Aaron's store is, you're thinking, oh, I've thought this. Oh, it's perfectly safe. There's nowhere in the world you're going to get a car through the windows of this joint. And sure enough, anything is possible. So, as a learner, this person sucks. So don't give them a license. What can I say? Hey, absolutely fantastic. Thomas has said, he was supposed to be at the Taskmaster. Where was I with the broom? Yeah, well, exactly right. What I found funny is in the comment today, if you looked at Aaron's store, he said that he's taken Curly's paycheck off him because of it was Curly who damaged the shop. And I thought, hang on, are there paychecks in this store? Oh, I didn't know that. That's a first for me.
Do I buy you lunch?
No, I bring my own. So.
Do I offer to buy you lunch?
Yeah, well, that's true. So there you go. Anyway, the key thing is, yes, you're right. The store is open for business and everybody's happy. And actually, that's a good point, Dicko. Dicko's coming up with all the comments tonight. Like, it's not didn't happen tonight while we're doing the show. Imagine that you get the message, oh, hang on, someone's just driven into the store while we're on air.
Well, that would have been fantastic because we could have done Rip It Off the Card on the road and I could have broadcast live driving to the shop trying to put on a show. And then we could have been live in the shop it would be like a episode of Cops. We'd have to call it Nerds, you know?
Yeah. Yep, exactly right. I mean, how unlucky would that have been? But yeah, you're right. Missed it by one day because I think it happened like 8 o'clock in the evening and we would have been on the air had it been tonight. So unbelievable. Yes, very, very cool. All right. So everybody out there, make sure you pay Aaron's store a visit when you can to sort of help boost up his confidence and his bank balance because he's got to fork out a few bucks to get things fixed. And if you happen to see some random learner driver on the roads, be sure to lock up your fellow nerds because clearly there's some dangerous people out there. So what do you reckon? Yeah,
I'm just looking at Colin commenting. He would have had the one person with the excuse when the cops go, why didn't you slam your foot on the brake?
Which comment is that one?
Just Colin commenting.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, you got to read which comment because I don't know which one we're looking at.
Oh, so. No, I'm just saying he's commenting, but he'd be the one person with an excuse because he hasn't got the leg. It doesn't matter. Let's move on.
All right, so there you go. All right, now we've got it's a big show, but it's a shortened show because obviously Aaron didn't get to finish all the slides for tonight, so we're not going to get through the whole thing. So we will be slightly shorter than usual, but one thing we are not short on, and that is quality. And one thing we haven't had this year at all, to the best of my knowledge, is a bit of the old treasure in the suburbs. So this is all about where people have their own collections and they send through photographs of their collections to us. We put them on the show and we sort of display them and show them off a little bit. And as we've discussed in the past, the concept of this segment isn't to show us the biggest and the best and the enormous. It's all about things that people have collected, whether they're small or large, just to show that there are collectors out there and we want to celebrate them because obviously Aaron runs a collectible store. And you wouldn't believe it. So the treasure in the suburbs subject for tonight, of course, is The Vile himself. Absolutely fantastic. And believe me, no collection is perfect unless it's been violated. And of course, one of the collections that the Vile has, and we did discuss it a little bit last week, is the Creature from the Black Lagoon. And there's not a lot of stuff available for this, but the Vile has it. Look at that. Gets a bit of Gillman action happening, which is absolutely spectacular. Even though there's not a lot of stuff available, what he has looks awesome. What do you think? What do you thoughts there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, Creature from the Black Lagoon is one of those interesting areas of collectibles where basically all there is different versions of the creature. So where some people specialize, like you, Dags, when you collected Batman, you just collected Batman and none of the other characters. With Creature from the Black Lagoon, Gillman is pretty much it. So it's a very impressive collection because there isn't a lot of different things from Creature from the Black Lagoon. There's, I guess, some posters and lobby cards, but most of them are different versions of the creature himself. And so you can see there, the Vile has all different types of creatures. He's got like the plush one up the back, and then the NECA ones and the Universal Monster ones, and different versions from different places. There's the bust of the creature, which is just the creature from the belly button up, and the full-size mask there, which I don't know if that's the creature or just the Vile posing in the middle of the collection.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely fantastic. So I wanted to show off what the Vile has in his house. And yeah, you're right. I mean, if you want any of the other characters in the movie, good luck with that because no one gives a rat's bum about them. It is Gillman all the way. Now, I don't know what, there's a comment here. I'm about to pull this up. I'm not entirely sure what the relevance is, but it says here, Joe has said, way to stomp all over a joke, right? I don't even know what I've done wrong. But speaking of jokes, believe it or not, the Vile sent one through. It's the Vile's bad Star Wars joke of the day, right? And he sent this through only like 20 minutes before we went on air, and I thought, I've got to chuck this one in. So the joke is, what do you call, this is a Star Wars one, obviously, what do you call a hard-rocking astromech droid? What do you reckon the answer is, Mr. Aaron?
AC/DC?
You're very close. It's A3D3. Oh, how excitingly funny is that? So there you go. So very, very good stuff. So that's yes, the Vile violating us with some good quality Star Wars jokes. What do you reckon, old son?
What's all this with the Vile trying to take over the show? He's got the treasure in the suburbs, the Vile's joke of the week, the Vile file coming. It seems like he's putting in, and we're the Ukrainians.
Yes, exactly right. Luckily, he wasn't violating your store last night, being a learner driver in Blackburn. That would not have ended well at all. So there you go. Yes. That Jaloke belongs in the Vile. grown. Oh,
right at the bottom of the Vile file, I think. Yes.
Yes, very, very cool. All right, good stuff. All right, so let's move on. Otherwise, we'll never get stuff. Hang on. Oh, there's a lot of BOs there, Mr. Rico.
Well, you do know Chad has quite a lot of BO.
Indeed, he does. Very, very cool. At least there's a gap in the window now, so the store can air itself, which is particularly groovy. Well, all right, let us. What was that? Hang on. Whoa! Stop! What was that?
That gap in the window is actually the new way for Dicko to come in.
Good on you. So there you go. And you are right. He is the Vile. What do you expect? I tell you what, nothing like being violated on this show. All right, it's time for some news. So let's get into it. So even though there's holes in the store, there's still room for collectibles in the world. And so, Mr. Aaron, we're kicking stuff off tonight with a bit of the old Godzilla.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting one because we've had Godzilla stuff up before, and it's usually Godzilla and King Ghidorah and Mothra, but this is, I think, the first time I've seen an action figure of Biolantis, which I'm sure Russell, if he's around, will confirm with his facts that it's a cross DNA between Godzilla, a human, and a rose.
I was waiting. You waited for me to say something, are you?
That's it. Biolantis is basically one of the villains, one of the monster villains that Godzilla fights, which is a plant-based one created by a scientist who was trying to help his daughter by using DNA therapy, and used a rose and Godzilla, and ended up with like a supercharged version of Ordery 2, I guess, from Little Shop of Horror. Now, this is coming out from Super 7 that have done things like Masters of the Universe in the past. I thought it was quite an interesting choice for them to go with. This is the first Godzilla one in the wave. And, you know, there's a lot of other monsters they could have gone with. So I thought this was quite interesting. What do you think? Have you seen Godzilla versus Biolantis?
No, didn't even know what this was, to be frankly honest with you. And I agree with you. It's either an Audrey 2 gone wrong or a Triffid from a day the Triffid's gone completely spazzo. But yeah,
Yeah.
that looks like a serious Venus flytrap. I tell you what kind of flies is that capturing? So yeah.
Yeah. Well, so it's one of those sets that comes with various parts for Godzilla. So you can put his neck so it looks like the vines are strangling him. And Biolantis even manages to puncture one of Godzilla's hands, and they've even included the hand with the hole in. So I thought that was quite good detail.
Very good. Oh, Greg has gone. That's Crinoid approved. So there you go. So if you get Greg's approval, then you know things are going well.
Yeah. So yeah, the first wave is Godzilla and the monsters. So there is a really nice Godzilla toy that comes out as well with this. There's the hand I was talking about, where you've got the puncture in the hand with the green goo coming through. So one of the more interesting Godzilla toys I have seen in quite a long time.
Actually, good point there, Mr. Vile. If the thing, as in like the thing from the thing, became a rose, it would probably look a bit like that. So that's not far from it, actually. In the thing, it's very, very similar. Well spotted.
Yeah, and you can see there that it's quite a big toy, and there's some of the different accessories. So he even comes with open mouth, closed mouth, and there's I don't know if that's the base or just some of the advertising, but stamped with the stamp of Godzilla's foot. There's the two of them, Godzilla versus Biolantis.
Very good. Well, if you ever wanted to use a quote, "Oh, we're going to need a bigger action figure," well, you got one.
Now, this is an interesting one because I often sit and think, what figures could they make from movies that they haven't made before? And sometimes I come up with stuff and I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And then there's other ones which like this, which I think is quite cool that they've made it, but I never would have thought they did. This is I think the character's Matt Hopper from Jaws, who was played by a young Richard Dreyfuss. Yeah. So this is an interesting addition to the Jaws line because they haven't released Brody or the captain or any of the other figures, but they've just gone with this one. He comes with his shark diving gear, and he comes with a full changeable head, so you can make him look like he's in a wetsuit underwater. Don't know if he comes with the shark cage there, but again, it was one of those really unusual choices where I was like, oh, that is quite cool. I never ever thought they would actually do it though. What do you think of that as a figure?
I don't see the point of it myself, but I mean, you're right. It looks good, but I mean, actually, when you look at that, it could be anybody really. I mean, I was thinking it could be Jacques Cousteau for all we know. So, but you are right. Without the other figures, it's kind of pointless. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. So, yeah. Whatever.
Well, an addition for anyone who's a fan of Jaws, there's an unusual addition to your collections. One of those things probably no one ever thought about. Even comes with it looked like a bucket of chum there. I don't know if that's an accessory that really comes with it or just one that they used.
Yeah.
So, and we're not talking about the dog food, are we?
No, chum is so chumpy you can carve it exactly right. Very, very cool. And just said from Sequest. Yeah, well, there you go. Good old Dara one says. So, yes. Very good. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Rusky Babes, on a painted silver and you got a Cyberman. Yeah, well, not far from it. So there you go. Speaking of the old friggin' Docky, what's the deal with this?
Well, this is kind of rumor news. I don't know if everyone's been keeping up with all the rumors online, but it's been rumored that Hugh Grant is the next Doctor. So I did some research into it and came up with this. This is an exclusive. Russell T Davies, RTD, is the new showrunner of Doctor Who, and I've managed to get a picture of his empty teacup there. And this seems to be the best way to speculate on who will be the new Doctor Who. So we've taken it to the experts online and got them to analyze the patterns in his teacup. And it's looking like the number one choice is David Tennant. And then number two is Hugh Grant. And we've got that heart-shaped thing, which is Billy Piper. Number four is Ollie Alexander. Number five is hard to read, probably the Rani. That's a bit of a Doctor Who joke there for Doctor Who fans. And then Dame Judi Dench's old mother. So these are the ones that we're telling you to put your money on at the bookies if you're making a bet on who's going to be the new Doctor Who. Who would you like to be the new Doctor Who?
So then my question to Greg King would be, is Hugh Grant Crinoid approved?
Yeah. I think Greg would probably find him a little bit.
We got. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button there. So, yeah, I preempted myself there. I got a bit. I was like, yeah. Anyway, I can't think of a joke.
Useless. Something about premature population or something.
Yeah. Premature population. Yeah, exactly right. I pressed the wrong button by accident. I was going to say. What was I going to say? I've completely forgotten now. Hugh Grant, Docky Who.
Notting Who.
Yeah. Very, very good. Crinoid, I can't even think of where I was going to go with that. But sounds very, very exciting. Greg's excited. Yay, team, party. What do you think? That's right. Experts on the internet. I nearly laughed when you told me that.
Well, all of these Dags came up with, and we all know how much he loves Doctor Who.
Absolutely fantastic. Gavin's right. Notting Who. Yeah, very, very cool. So, yes, good stuff. Greg has said, I think Hughes denied the rumor. I think it's highly unlikely myself, but weirder things have happened. So,
yeah,
there you go. Good stuff. All right, now I can finally press the button and get to where we're meant to go.
Useless Pop of the Week.
All right, sorry about that. Premature populating, as it were.
So this was going to be last week's useless pop of the week until we kind of even found a more useless one. But this one is still pretty useless. What do you think, Dags?
Bloody Pop's just shit me to tears. Oh, hang on. I've got the original picture of the original thing there. I'm going to have to go and fix that. Sorry. Just give me a second.
We're really professionals tonight.
Tell you what, this is what happens when you send it. Okay, hang on. Just talk amongst yourselves, kids. What was it? Well, I was looking at anyway, by the way.
So we're looking at the pop tonight is actually Mrs. Potts Pop from Beauty and
Useless Pop of the Week.
That's
here we go. Sorry, I didn't realise last week's one was still there. Sorry, start again.
No problem. So this is Mrs. Potts from, of course, Beauty and the Beast. And this is from the Enchanted Castle, where all of the inanimate objects have become alive, or really the inhabitants of the castle have all been turned into different items of furniture. So this is Mrs. Potts and Chip. Now, when you've got a pop and you collect pops, you're going to want, I guess, different themes, and you can collect the Disney ones. But really, if you're collecting Disney ones, do you want a pop that kind of like, wouldn't you just prefer to have a replica rather than a pop version of something that looks so incredibly not like a pop? It just looks like a teapot they've slapped eyes on.
Yeah, it does make a great deal of sense, does it? That's like the cash-in that doesn't work. And as we've discussed before in the show, that collectors of was it Beauty and the Beast would probably feel obligated to get it even if they didn't like it. So it's almost, you'd be looking at some of these items thinking, the Funko must be clutching at straws, thinking, scratching their heads, thinking, well, what's left? And they go, let's get a teapot and chuck some eyes on it and market it, and away we go. I mean, they might sell some, but you would have to think there wouldn't be a lot of interest in this. So,
well, because it's got the handle on the side of the head there, it almost looks like a teapot's made love to a Cyberman or something like that because of the cold, dead eyes. And then you've got Chip, which I guess is a bonus pop that comes with it. But again, it's one of those things I probably wouldn't consider being that high on the list of collectors wanting. And if you collected Disney or Disney princesses, you could probably expect to get, Belle and the Beast. But when they're pushing the secondary characters that don't even really fit into the pop mold, they're really pushing it. It's like last week where, they're releasing a character that no one ever thought would get a release and, comes out of nowhere. So this is one for, I guess, the diehard Disney fans and no one else.
Yeah, the idea is, and there was a comment here from Gavin, the candle will be next year. If they can stick eyes on it, which is just pretty much all you need to do to make it a pop, that's probably going to be the thing. So, and there was a comment here. I've lost it. Oh, yeah, Mark said, yeah, put hot water in it and watch it melt. So, yeah, the self-defeating teapot. Yeah, absolutely love it. So there you go. Call China. Hang on. Yeah, yes, Beauty and the Beast collectors will be screaming in denial. Well, exactly right. Yeah, when did we pop them cup to fun starter? Oh, here we go. Carol's on the roll. Need to start one of the Formula One drivers now that the season started again. Yeah, well, you are right. They could head into all sorts of markets, although Formula One sports really isn't like pop culture, but stranger things could happen. So yeah,
I can see it right now. All the Formula One drivers in little mini versions of cars, just to make people buy the car as well.
Yeah, exactly right. Gavin said Mrs. Brown's Yeah, actually, I could that. Yes, that wouldn't surprise me at all. You probably wouldn't do the whole cast, but you'd certainly do a couple of the main ones. So, yeah, exactly right. Very, very good. All right, so there you go. Some useless pops. Absolutely love them. Now, of course, this one is a really good one because tonight, as we're talking about the old Greg King things. And what's the big news about Greg King's Cheaper Things, Mr. Aaron?
Well, we actually got a delivery this week. So it's exciting when we get a delivery because, it happens, not very often at all. And we actually got 2 items because this is the one we've been waiting for quite a while. It's the Book of Life and the Book of the Dead from the Mummy movies. And
it's the Book of the Living, by the way, not the Book of Life.
Book of Life, Book of the Living, and the Book of the Dead from the Mummy movies. And this is one of the ones we ordered right at the beginning of the year and has taken about 3 months to rock up. And I was probably only a couple of days away from getting a refund on it. And then it actually showed up. And this is the first time in the history of this segment that we've actually got an item that came in a box rather than a plastic bag, because everything that's turned up so far has been in like a paid plastic satchel. Now, I'm only gonna open one of them and show them. We've got lots of pictures of them though. And I'm only going to open one of them because it has a problem that we've had with one of the items before, but this one's even worse. It actually reeks. It actually almost makes me gag. It actually smells like vomit.
Now, for people out there, he did say gag, not dag, so I thought I'd just clarify that.
So, as you can probably see straight away, it isn't like 1-to-1 size. It's only about a quarter of the size they were advertising. It's been spray painted on a resin, and the spray paint actually stinks. It really smells like, really extreme chemicals and vomit. So not the best thing when you open up a box and you get hit with a wave like that. Now, does it look okay? What do you think of the look of this, Dags?
Well, based on what I can see in the video, I mean, you're right. The size is obviously a bit of a letdown, but it's got some craftsmanship in it, so it's not like it's been painted on. So I guess that's one positive.
It isn't like the Cenobite cube where when we opened it, it was just a block of wood that had been masked off and sprayed. It has obviously had a little bit more craftsmanship to it, where they've probably just molded out the different parts. It isn't a book at all. When you open it, it's just like a keepsake holder or something like that. When I went back and looked at what we ordered, it did actually show this in one of the tiny photos, and the details on it aren't as nice as the one that's advertised. So basically it's got a gold spray on it and then some highlights of sort of some peach or red round there, but not very much at all.
So, as Yoda said from, was it Rise of Skywalker, it wasn't exactly a page turner because it's not actually a book. The Book of the Living is not actually a book. I love it.
No, it's not really cool. I wouldn't keep anything in it because whatever you kept in it, it'd end up smelling rank. So let's go through some of the pictures of it from what we bought compared to what we got. So, this is what we got. I don't know if we've had the one what we ordered was an earlier one, or maybe it didn't go through.
Yeah, the first. Yep.
So this is what we ordered. And what's interesting about this is there's a couple of different photos of different products there, which is always cheating a bit. So you can see the one at the top where there's two in the same picture, the black one and the gold one laying down. That is very similar to what we actually got, where they look like they're the solid pieces. The paintwork's different on the black one, and the paintwork is the same as the gold one. When you look at what we ordered on the other pictures on this page, you can see that the paintwork's a lot more intricate on the pictures than what we actually got. And down the bottom of each one, you can see there's a little tiny picture that shows you when you open it, unless you studied it really closely, you could mistake it as a book, but it's actually just a hollow holder to keep keepsakes in. So they did a bit of a dodgy, I think. I didn't put the picture up there. They did show one full-size prop of a girl cosplaying with it, and it was the full size, so about 4 times as big as this. Absolutely right. This isn't the worst one we've ever received, that's for sure.
It's actually designed to hold other books, so love that.
Yeah. Well, you could keep your copy of the Mummy DVD inside it or something like that. The deluxe edition. So this is what we this is what we ordered and this is what we got. So when this turned up, I can't say I thought it was horrible, because we've got stuff that has been so much worse than this. This is actually kind of looks like some of the pictures that we ordered. It's not like a total disaster. Like I said, the smell is a real off-putter, but maybe that will go away after a week or two. They smell like they just spraying them and sending them out to order kind of thing.
Maybe actually, but if it smells bad, maybe it's already had the budgie in it. So there you go.
That's why they went and dug it out of the pet cemetery. So the detail on the pictures, when you look at them side by side, the one that we actually got has a different paint job to what they advertised, and I think the one that they advertised is a slightly nicer version. You can, when you have a close-up of the ones that we've got, that you'll be able to come in and have a look at the shop. If you do, the paint job is pretty dodgy. I would say out of 10, I might give it a 5. I'm not going to ask for my money back because we actually got them. They were $22 each, so $44 for the pair. I could conceivably put them in with the Indiana Jones stuff, and someone might be considering to buy them for that. So they are a saleable product, unlike a lot of the other tat that turns up. So yeah, what did you? Well, we've got. Dags hasn't actually seen them in person, so this is what we've got here. And of course, it's not great. So it's got, we've given it Greg King's seal of disapproval. And when we have the seal of disapproval, that usually means that
that's core value.
Yeah. So again, we ordered them so you wouldn't have to order them. Although we got it, and although it was maybe 50% there, I would not recommend anyone getting this product. And you couldn't anyway, because the site that we got it from has been taken down and disappeared, like all the good Chinese sites that we deal with.
All right. So Anne just asked, did you get the key? Obviously not.
No.
So realistically, don't read. Christy's not happy. She was looking forward to an actual book, and I actually thought it was a book. You thought it was a book too, didn't you? So
yeah.
Yes. And as you know, you're not supposed to read from the book, but it's a bit late. So was it meant to have a key with it?
They said, when I ordered it, they said, you could get lucky and buy a key. If you ordered 2, you were guaranteed to get the key. I ordered 2 and I didn't get no key. So they ripped me off in that way.
Yeah. Very good. Christy asked, did it come with a map to Harmon Uptra? Yeah, that's a good one. The smell is authentic. The smell of disapproval, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, cabinet bound. Yes, and yes, as we've confirmed, there was no key. So how about that? But at least something turned up.
Well, here's the interesting thing. This is the stuff that we've got on the way. So the Maltese Falcon, the miniature of the Lord of the Rings house. We've got a luck dragon and 2 items from Labyrinth. And then we've got a light up alien and Halloween dioramas. Now, the luck dragon and the other 2 plushes, they attempted to deliver them on Friday, but I wasn't around, so they went back. So they should be, I've rung the couriers company, and they should arrive this week. So we'll definitely have another Greg King delivery next week.
So they tried to deliver the luck dragon, but you weren't around. So that, in other words, you're out of luck. You're literally out of luck because you didn't get it.
Yeah, the luck dragon's broken. I'll have to send it back. Oh, it's already gone back.
Love it, and there you go.
So now we've added the Books of the Dead there into Greg King's Eternal Garage Sale. So now if you want to either read from the Book of the Dead or the Book of the Living, you're able to pick them up at Greg King's Garage Sale.
Very good. The Dead Maltese Budgie. And yes, don't forget, as Aaron said, you can come into the store and have a look at these items. Get a whiff of the old Harmon Uptra smell, the smell of old ancient Egypt. Should be absolutely fair. And you can say, oh, that's not Chad's BO. That's actually the Book of the Living. You showed the Book of the Living. Did you have the Book of the Dead as well? I
did. I was only going to open one because the smell they unleash is pretty potent. But
I mean, you got to bring back. I forgot the name of the mummy's character. Imhotep. You got to bring him Imhotep. That's his cologne, mate.
So
hang on. Oh yeah. Oh, actually, that's not so bad. I reckon that's all right.
Well, you don't have to smell it. So
hang on. I'm going to see if I can get you. Oh, hang on, wrong button. Hang on. Here we go. Sorry, I'm coming. Here we go. Look at that.
You're on a roll tonight.
I had a coffee and everything tonight. I reckon that looks all right. I mean, it's not a book, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. So yeah.
I don't know if you can see up close the painting is not to the highest standard in that a lot of the detail highlights are just slapped on, especially in the scarab in the middle. So you can see they've lost a bit of the detail there.
Yeah.
There is detail on it. It's cast in resin. It's not, like I said, not horrible.
No, but still enough for you to say it was poor value. So there you go. Or for Greg to say it was poor value. So he wasn't the happiest camp in the world. Very good.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Rusky Babes. Yeah, the book that dead, no wonder it smelled bad. But you ordered something, you delivered something. And of course, as you said, it was in a box. So it's not the worst thing we've ever seen before. So very, very good. But you sold the best item. Yes, that's right. It was the medallion. It's the headpiece of the Star for Ra. That's already gone off to someone else's collection, which is particularly groovy. So there you go. Oh, there we go. Smell could be Brendan Fraser's sweat. So there you go.
Well,
very cool.
I am actually, I don't know who said that. I'm actually going to put that on the tag when I put it in the shop. Smell could be Brendan Fraser's sweat, $99.
Or, as Rico says, everything smells like Chad. Well, everything does, doesn't it? So there you go. At least there's a bit of extra air conditioning in the store tonight, which is the most important thing. Speaking of things which are particularly groovy, and we, of course, last week everybody complained, the vial file was a little bit tame. Well, I decided to ramp it up a little bit because the vial file is back. How good is this?
Yes. So the vial file's back. Last week was apparently too tame for everyone. So we've got a couple of interesting vial letters this week. So one of the more interesting things this year, I think every single week we've had a couple of letters that I've been able to pick from. Now this one says, "Dear Lord Vial, while hiding collectibles from my wife, I came across this Star Wars item that I'm sure will arouse your interest. Spankin' TM." Now, I don't know if you can see the item there. It's actually a clone trooper from Star Wars with a particularly massive crotch-mounted weapon. This is one of those interesting things where obviously the design team didn't realize how suspect it was going to look when they came up with the pictures they used on the packing. And there are quite a few toys like this. We've seen a Punisher with a weapon mounted in the same place. We've seen a Tarzan that has like a vine coming out there that looks quite suspicious. And now we can add to that these clone troopers. So this is a real genuine item. And I hadn't seen this one, but looked it up and it was real and it is around.
As we like to say, the clones do like to shoot from the hip. So there you go. Is that a weapon in your pocket? Absolutely it is. So yes, it's yes, that was one clone who was very, very happy to see the Clone Wars kick off. So yes, it's a Ted. Yes, you're right. Thank you, Mr. Gavin. Shwing indeed. So there you go. And it is the wrong age group. So yes, you don't want little kids to look at that thing. And this is how I'm supposed to hold my weapon. And as we know, it's good to see his Schwartz is as big as yours. So
I've got an end to that that joke. Is that a weapon in your pocket, or are you just glad to see Tornwee?
Good on you, idiot.
It's a Star Wars joke. It's a Star Wars joke. Have patience. We got this other letter. This other letter comes from a co-worker at the shop. Dear Lord Vial, I am submitting this as it combines my love of comics and animal abuse. Look what Alf is doing to Greg King's seal of approval, Rico Sanchez. Now, I don't know if anyone knows. I'm going to out him. Rico Sanchez is Chad that works in the shop. He chose a dodgy anonymous name for himself to be on Facebook. And then now he works for the shop. It just seems like we have crazy people working for us with weird names, but it's actually Chad. Now, I think this is very like the MCU, the Marvel Expanded Universe, where one segment starts bleeding over into the other, and we've now got the Vial violating Greg King's seal of approval. Like, what will happen next? Toby Maguire will turn up as a host or something like that.
I've had to whip out the magnifying glass of truth, and if you're wondering what Alf is saying, he's saying, "So hurry up already."
It doesn't make it right, does it?
It does not. That is a wrong picture. So there you go. But Yes,
Yeah.
there's an edition you've got to get out and about and purchase when you have a moment, which I think leads us into this, doesn't it?
Yes, so we're having the Vial enjoyed this idea and authorized the Vial's Guide to Buying Key Issue Comics. So I don't know if anyone knows about collecting comics, but when you collect comics, you often collect every single issue if you're into a character. What there are, though, are key issues, and key issues are generally when the first appearance of that character, the first appearance of a particular villain, and often the key issues can be worth many, many times the value of just the regular issues, because lots of people collect the key issues, and sometimes a key issue can be because they use the plot on a movie, so suddenly that becomes a key issue because everyone's after that storyline. Now, the interesting thing about the Vial, he likes Vial key issues.
What? That was such a long story. I was thinking, mate, where are you going with this? Just get straight into the pictures.
Dags just wants to see the rude pictures. Okay, so here are some issues that are in the Vial's personal collection. He scans the comic book shops to get the absolute best, the best comics of the highest grade as an investment. Now, I don't know if you remember the Rifleman, Dags, in the 50s and 60s. There was a lot of cowboy TV shows. There was Bonanza and Maverick. Rifleman was sort of cut from the same cloth. Now, in this issue, the little kid is holding on to Rifleman's log. Well, yes. Don't get ahead of yourself, Joe Penn. Blurk is actually a not an English comic, but it's another one because it's got a guy holding his huge German sausage and wielding his sausage to bang one of the bad guys over the top of the head. Now, I don't know what's actually in the comic because Lord Vial just supplies the covers, but it's got some barrels at the back there, and I'm pretty sure those barrels will be full of pickles or something else that would be suitably vile for to be shown on the front of a comic book. What do you think of those covers, Dags? Would you collect those?
That Rifleman, there's like nothing good about that Rifleman one at all. The way the kid's looking at the guy, the way the guy's looking at the log, or the fact the kid's even holding a log. I tell you what, that is shocking, isn't it? Absolutely shocking. And you reckon the photographer would have been aware of what they were doing? So unbelievable.
It's not, they call that being in one of those rings.
Yes, exactly right. Very, very good. Yes. Good stuff. All right, we move on.
So we've got some interesting ones here. I don't know if people are familiar with different genres of comics, but there are comics that were sort of romance comics for girls, and I guess comedy comics for younger kids that were more of a like not superheroes, more of funny like Archie and things like that. So we've got young romance here, and it's one of those interesting. A sort of a guy from the upper class and a girl from the lower class where they can't meet together, and it's like a tale of forbidden defeated love or something. But what I find interesting, Dags, you might have to get the magnifying glass out for this one. Could you read the speech bubble that's in the Cookie comic?
The Cookie comic. Okay. So what over here? That's this section here.
Yes.
But Angel Puss, how did I know they'd charge a nickel extra for the pickle?
Well,
a nickel for the pickle.
A nickel for the pickle. I guess that was the pickle in the barrel in the last comic cover. But I just think it's interesting that over time language develops and changes. So, so when you're picking a peck of pickles, it's different, back when they were doing the comics to what it might mean now. So that's like one of those things that just goes close to the line to being violated.
Yeah, she's a leg hugger. Yeah, exactly right. It's a bit, I know. It's a tad wrong, isn't it? Absolutely unbelievable.
Yes. Okay, so we've got some more popular comics here, and the Vial has picked these ones because, not because they're key issues for story, but because the way the artists have depicted the people that are on the covers. So you've got Captain America there, and he's actually been tied down by the wee males. That's what they're called, WEE males. But they've taken him to a cave where like a hand is coming out and reaching straight for his crotch. So who knows what terrors await Captain America when he gets dragged into the cave. Now the other ones there, you know, they're very innocent. You've got little Lulu riding on a bike. Won't say any more about that. And then you've got Captain Marvel giving a lift to a little old lady. Also won't say anything more about that.
Yes, good old was it Captain Marvel and the little old lady? Yes, exactly right. Yes, and that brings up that old gag of old Mother Hubbard who went for the cupboard to get a poor doggy a bone. But we won't go any further than that, shall we? So there you go. Yeah, Christy. Unfortunately, there is a lot of that, and sometimes these things are done innocently. But yes, exactly
But
right.
sometimes I'm sure they're not.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Oh my god. Oh gosh. Hang on. What? Oh, geez, that's a bit rough, isn't it? That's Cliff Hemsworth. Well, at least you're honest. So there you go. And the thing is, little Lulu, because my cat's called Lulu, so I thought of that when I saw this thing. So you should bang I tell you what. Anyway, good old yes. Hang on, just give me a second. Oh, yeah, okay,
Captain
right.
Marvel travels to other worlds.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
We've got the Archie universe here, and this is quite interesting because it's more the speech bubbles that we've got what makes these comics so interesting to the Vile. The first one is Archie, and he is in the I guess he's in a department store buying different stuff, and he's saying, "I bet this frisbee flips out Veronica on her birthday," and Betty there is saying, "It sure will, Archie. She was expecting a pearl necklace." And then the other one, where we have Archie in the Betty and Me comics, she's saying, "Archie, did you have to I can't say it. Did you have any trouble rescuing me?" And he said, "I sure did, Betty. I had to beat off 3 other guys."
I did find that very, very funny, actually. So there you go. Oh dear, Archie. Yeah, exactly right. Where's Jaws? Absolutely, you have to beat. I mean, that's just not good, is it? You know, I had to beat off 3. See, back in the like 50s or 60s, you could probably say they can get away with it because beat off means, you know, obviously, you know, you punch these guys off, but not anymore. So yeah.
Well, I like how the other guys are sort of they're all dazed from their experience with, you know, like stars around their heads. Archie must be really good at beating them off.
Well, there was 3 of them, and he's only got 2. Anyway, let's. Oh dear, that is just not good. The things you'll do for a girl, eh?
Now, you've got to admire a comic from the days where gay meant having a good time, and not like now where gay means having a good time, but it's like a totally different good time. But this is from one of the old gay comics. I bet you can't blow hard enough to splat. So you can see, though, the girl is cheating because although she's blowing and blowing and blowing, they've also used a fan to help with the blowing out of the candles. And then I've teamed that up with Incredible Hulk issue that the Vile sent me, which kind of has like a rainbow enveloping the Hulk. And the guy's going, "Don't struggle, Hulk. I'm just trying to give you your greatest desires."
I like this one from Joe. Is having a go at us. We didn't write these things. These are legitimate comics. It's just the way they've been interpreted, and everybody else is thinking just as badly as us. So
I don't think
unbelievable. Yes,
this is just an investment for people who like Vile comics.
Yes, I do like that gay comics one though. I can't. I bet you can't blow hard enough. Far out, I'll tell you. And that is just, if you were to just cover the girl and just look at the guy and the stuff in his face, and then you got the comment, oh, that is just so wrong on so many levels. So yes. Oh, I don't think you get more naughty. It's not naughty. It's just how these things were produced. It's how you guys are interpreting it. So there you go. So
you can't win, can you, Dave?
Oh, dear. You're right, Joe. The Vile rules back to form. Absolutely fantastic. It is just so wrong on so many levels.
Now, here's some interesting collectibles for Batman and DC fans. You've obviously got the homage to Sher there, where you've got the three superheroes on top of the huge guns, like that isn't suggestive at all, where you've got Superman, Robin, and Batman there. Interestingly enough, though, the Batman one isn't too bad in the center until you realize where Robin's head is. Now, that's a really interesting place to launch an attack, isn't it?
So you could almost say that bad guy's really asking for it. With the one on the left, with the three cannons, I thought Robin's cannon would be slightly shorter than the other two.
Well, don't estimate Robin. Don't underestimate Robin. They all go off with the same bang.
Hang on, you're blaming us. It's a
one store a week. Well, the interesting one here, I don't know what's going on, but the world's finest comic there has Robin introducing Batman and Superman to a lake full of naked young boys. And it's got no swimming, so I don't know what they're doing in there.
Oh God, you're right, Colin. Yeah, my gun's bigger than yours. Yeah, exactly. Oh goodness gracious me! It's just wrong, isn't it? It's so. What are you supposed to say about that? Huh?
It really is. These were all from an innocent age. We're really horrible people,
were.
aren't we? Like making fun of these, but it's also wrong. It's all done with the best possible taste.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, yes, if I could turn back time, exactly right. So yes, very very cool.
Now here's a really interesting one. Superman ripping his and for some reason the Vial just managed to pair this up with giant-sized Man-Thing.
I'm just looking at the first one, the one on the left. That is so bad.
Yeah, someone's getting ready to bite the pillow.
And you got that. Oh, that is so wrong. Anyway, I keep cutting you off. Go for it.
Yes, no, it's just the giant-sized Man-Thing is the interesting thing in that one, that they actually made the annual. I can't believe that back in the day when they did the annuals, they still called the Man-Thing the giant-sized Man-Thing. Oh, we're all professionals tonight.
Oh, Jesus, that's bad. I can't see anything now. It's all blurry. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Anyway, what did you say? Anything you want to say about these two before I move on?
Faithful viewers, you've steamed up bags of glasses.
Oh, God, you're killing me. Oh, God.
But unfortunately for him, more powerful than a locomotive as well.
Oh, it's so wrong. I'm going to move on. This is killing me.
So we didn't really want to just have the male comic take up all the action tonight. So we've sent a couple of Wonder Woman comics too, and these are not at all suggestive in any way at all. So the first one, we've got Wonder Woman there straddled around a giant bomb, and I don't know how she'll get away from that. But the other one there, we've got this giant red torpedo coming towards Wonder Woman, who's trapped on a sea boy. So again, some of those comics that probably at the time seemed quite innocent, but to an adult mind warped like ours, can be quite suggestive.
Unbelievable, isn't it? And I agree with you, Thomas. It's just absolutely out of control, isn't it? So I agree with you, dude. From an innocent age, and little kids probably never thought anything of it, but it's a present from Steve Trevor. Oh dear! Was that our own lesson with truth? Yeah, exactly right. You do wonder, Unbelievable. Yes. Sorry, what?
No, nothing. Just the stories there are a Target, Wonder Woman, and the TNT trap.
Oh dear, crikeys, that's unbelievable. So yeah, very, very cool. So what are you trying to tell me about all these particular comics in the Vials collection there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, they've been bagged, boarded, and totally violated.
Absolutely unbelievable. Oh, goodness gracious me. Oh,
So you'll be happy, happy viewers, that the Vial actually has an expansive comic book collection, and there are many, many other comics in his collection that we didn't use this evening that we might be able to use in the future. And I'm like very hesitant to say this, but next week's Vial file, which he's already sent some pictures from, are probably one of the most risque ones ever. So if you like that kind of juvenile comedy, definitely come back next week.
they're not risque. It's how the audience is interpreting it. We're not doing anything. We're just showing you parts of the Vials collection. It's like if you everybody interpreting it incorrectly, that's not our issue. So yes, yes, good to see the Vial is back in form. Absolutely fantastic. All hail of the Vial. So there you go. Please. It's all innocent. What can I say? All right. Oh, goodness gracious me. All right, let's move on to something else. We are. It's just. Oh, here we go.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's what...
Oh, goodness. All right, where are we tonight there, Mr. Aaron?
So I thought tonight we would look at trading cards, because trading cards is something that everyone sort of has an idea about. Everyone hates the Pokemon ones because, you know, they're stupidly expensive and you can never guess them. So I've done trading cards, but no Pokemon stuff. So just stuff that you'll probably have a good idea about.
Very good. So, yeah, we're going to show you some items that have sold on eBay. Just tell us what you think they sold for. Don't Google it or cheat. Just chuck in a price and see how we go.
So this is a limited edition trading card. It's from 2013. It was from a set of Marvel Retro Precious Metal cards, and these ones were the chase cards within the set. So there was only 50 of each. They're made on a metallic paper, so they're not signed or anything like that. They're just metallic versions of the standard cards that were really limited. This is number 21 of 50 from the Marvel set.
Very, very good. All right. So far, Angie's put in a bit of $230, and that's all we have. 6 pence. Okay, you have to give me something in Australian dollars there, Mr. Rusky babes. So what does everybody think? 2013 Flair Marvel Retro Thor Precious Metal Gems Blue. All right, Mark has said 500. Moneybag Sullivan has said 450. Christy has gone for $60 round figures. What does everybody else think they went for, or if this went for? Gavin has gone for $42. Okay, fair enough. It doesn't look anything particularly interesting, you've got to say. So there you go. Sorry, Colin has gone for $250. Glennis is at $130. Thomas, he's ramped it right up at $3,900. Williams at $350. Carol's at $269. People have been relatively conservative. I don't blame you, because it does look pretty ordinary, I've got to say. Joe has gone for $2, taking a leaf out of Greg King's book. I think I said Carol at $269. Yeah, and William is at $350. Violating good old Thor is the Vial, and the Vial is actually doing very well tonight at $85. So there you go. Very, very good. 58 bids. So take note of that, kids. 58 people bid on this. So for that reason, I don't think Joe's got much hope at $2. So what does everybody else think? The 2013 Flair Marvel Retro Thor Precious Metal Gems Blue. Wolf has gone for 99, which is cool. Ironically, if it went for $58, you could almost argue that there was one bid. Each bid was $1. So what do you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping. See who's closest to the mark on this one. Look at that, $9,700. You guys weren't even remotely close.
So that's a card I would have liked to have collected at the time. I think, yeah, Thomas got that one with the 3,900. I'm just frankly surprised it went for this, because you do see cards go for a bit, but usually they're costume cards, which means they've got a piece of screen-used costume or they've got an autograph on them. This one just seems to be from a set from 10 years ago, and it went for an insane price.
So the problem is, Mr. Thomas, you've still got to cough up an extra $6,000, I think, to be able to pick this up. So you're not even halfway there, old son. But isn't that absolutely ridiculous? So Off the top of your head, do you have any ideas to why this would have gone for such a high amount?
I reckon they're just two people that desperately wanted it, because I cannot explain why that went for so much. But, sometimes you see something goes for a big price because it was a buy it now, but this was actually a bidding war that took it all the way up to that.
Insane, isn't it? 58 bids, and of course the owner was just sitting there going, "That is awesome." All right, next one.
So here's a staying in the Marvel universe. Here is a 2007 Spider-Man autograph from Tobey Maguire. Now, because he has just been in the new Spider-Man movie, he is popular again. But this is from the original movies that he was in back in 2007. So this is an autograph card, guaranteed, genuine, that it's his. How much is a Tobey worth?
Yeah, no, considering it's a pretty ordinary signature too, is like he just had a bit of a quick scrawl. All right, so Andrew's kicked this off for $67. What does everybody else think? Mo's going to check his dad's collector cards now. Absolutely fantastic. So what do people think? Tobey Maguire. All right, now people are putting in the big numbers, you see. Colin's gone for $5,000. Thomas is at 2,500. Mark's knocked off a zero and gone for 250. Glennis is at 150. What does everybody else think? Now, remember, if Toby turned up to a Supernova or an Oz Comic Con, you wouldn't be paying a lot for an autograph there, you would think. Chrissy's at 110. Carol's at 5,500. Gavin's at 42. Moneybag Sullivan's at 600. Wolf is at 100 again. Violating Spider-Man. I'd love to see that from the Violers at $2,500. And William is at 1,200. So, yes, particularly groovy. And it's Spider-Man 3, not even the first movie. So, yes. Greg has said, I think there's 4 for $2 in the garage sale. Yeah, I don't think so, son. So what do you think? You would think it wouldn't be worth much at all. So, yes, particularly groovy. 2007, Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire, autograph card, et cetera, et cetera. Very ordinary, very, very boring. How much you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping $3,100. What's the deal?
I truly think if you had bought this last year before he was in No Way Home, you could probably have got it for a tenth of what that was going for, because Spider-Man 3 was probably recognized as one of the lesser popular Spider-Man movies. So this was probably a good investment back then. I don't think you'd get much more than that now. Well, Thomas is amassing a great card collection tonight, isn't he?
Well, good old Thomas and the Vial get this. Actually, get to split him in half. So there you go. That's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely insane. $3,000 for that. It'd be different if Toby was one of those people who never signs anything, or if he, dare I say, passed away. But that is insane. Absolutely insane. I think whoever would buy that would look back on it. And I agree with you, Chrissy. That's just ridiculous. I reckon they'll look upon that later on and go, mate, that was a complete waste, especially if Toby turns up to their local gig and he's only charging $30-40 for an autograph. So absolutely insane. So, yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Now, this is interesting because this card is kind of in the same series as that Thor card we saw earlier. It's one of the Metal Gems one. This is a different series, but it's from it's sort of the same kind of card set. And this is a Ruby Spider-Man. So a gem red, number 39 of 99 Spider-Man. We just saw the other one went for a absolute shit ton. Do you think Spider-Man goes for as much, or have I tricked everyone by slipping in a 99-cent one?
That's a very good question to ask, isn't it? So, and you are right. Spider-Man is particularly popular and has been for quite some time. Be curious to see whether everybody now is going to start ramping up their bids. So Mark has kicked us off at $4,000. No one's going for the $2 here. Colin's gone for 6,500. Gavin's at 42. Yeah, Gavin, you might be on it. You never know. It could be a bit of a gag for you. Chrissy's gone for 45 cents. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Daniel Moneybag Sullivan's gone for 7,000. Everybody's ramping up the big dollars now. I mean, even though people are putting these wacky prices in, does anybody actually believe it's worth that much? Would you buy it for this? 39 bids. So be aware of that. Did I miss you? Did I miss to Ange? Where was Ange? Oh, crikey, Ange is up the top. $14,000. Holy guacamole.
And 1 cent.
He's come a long way since his old couple of dollars days. Okay, where were we? Glennis is at 500. Carol's at 65, so 6,600. Thomas is at 300. Russell's at $1 million. Violating Spider-Man, as we like to see, is the Vial at 3,000, and Williams at 4,500. So even though people are putting these big numbers in, do you really believe that it's worth that much? 39 bids, certainly a better picture than the previous one we saw. 2017 Flair, Ultra Marvel, Precious Metal Gems, yada, yada, yada. Spider-Man, what do you reckon it went for? Remember, it's only a card. So the picture makes it look really big, but it's only like this large. So what do you reckon it went for, kids? It went for a whopping $18,000. What's the deal with that?
I do not know. And again, it was one that there were a lot of people bidding on. I can't believe Angelo won it at that, but there you go. I think he put that in as a crazy joke and still was short $4,000.
I don't get it. That's obscene. There's something wrong with some of these people. I tell you what. So yes, and even the people who are putting all these large bids in would never believe. Yeah, I agree with you, Moneybags. That's beyond the point of absurdity. So now, dude, is there a reason? Is there something special about this card that would make it be worth that much?
As far as I could see, no. It's just a rare chase card from a set. There's only 99 of them, but I've had cards in sets, where there's less than that, and they don't go for anything close to that amount. So definitely too many people in lockdown for too long, saving up too much money and then deciding to complete their Marvel card collections.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? So anyway, so now everybody's on. Now, well, let's see some really big bids come in. Go for it.
So this is going to go for a lot, isn't it? Because it is a full set of 2008 Iron Man autograph trading cards. Robert Downey Jr., Jeff Bridges, who's sadly no, he passed away, has he? Jeff Bridges?
No, Jeff Bridges, he's still around.
Who am I thinking? William Hurt just passed away, didn't he? But yeah, so this is a full autographed set from Iron Man, the first movie, which was the first movie in the MCU, so quite a historic one. Everyone sort of loves this. A lot of people think it's one of the best superhero movies ever. So obviously, this is going to go for more than all the other cards combined, right?
Interesting. You could probably argue the Robert Downey one is where the money is, right? Because he's clearly the biggest star of the show, and he's a very big star in his own right. So conceivably, if it was just him by himself, he could actually be worth a hell of a lot of money. But yeah, having all the others, that is particularly groovy. That the whole set from the cast. Oh yeah, okay. And Angie's kicked us off at 24 grand, 23 and a half. Gavin is at 42. Got no hope, Gavin. Even I can tell you that. Collins at 10,000. Thomas is at 65. Got no open there either. Moneybags has gone for the 30,000. Carol's at 950. You know what? The way things are going, that might be pretty close to the truth.
You never know, yeah.
Yeah, Williams at 1,500. Christie's at 4,500. Mark is at 100,000. Yeah, there's certainly something to be said in that. Even I don't know what it is. Rico has decided to stick his hand into 35 grand. So what do you reckon, kids? The whole cast from the first Iron Man movie, which in itself, as Aaron said, is a bit of a big deal considering it was the first of the MCU movies. Glenn is at 5,000, violating just about the whole cast is the Vile at 25,000. What do you reckon, kids? By default, it should be worth a lot of money. And as we said, they've got some dudes there. You go, oh, yeah, that would be very, very exclusive to get. Full set. Don't even know how this person even got them. 2008 Iron Man cards. Very good point, Moneybags, as it is missing Pepper Potts. Yep, very good. So you get hers and you shove it in the collection, and watch the price go up even further. Got the whole troop except for Gwyneth Paltrow. What do you reckon it's worth? It would be worth a whopping, hold your hats here, kids, 16 grand. What's the deal?
So, do you know, it's interesting because on a normal week, if we put the 16 grand on, everyone would go, whoa, that's amazing. But because we've just seen all these other Spider-Man cards go for so much, that seems a bit disappointing because the money seems more there than it does in that Thor or Spider-Man card.
That's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, something wrong with this picture. I tell you who didn't get it. Carol didn't get it at nearly $1 million. I think Colin is the closest, but he's still got to cough up an extra 6 grand. It'll cost him a bit of an arm and a leg. Oh, couldn't help myself. Yes, that's about it, I think. So,
I think,
what do you reckon, kids? So, yeah.
If Colin and Glenn went in together, they could split the cards up.
Yeah. I do think if you added Gwyneth Paltrow in there, it would probably be worth a lot more. Um,
Imagine if they'd sold that set and one of Gwyneth Paltrow's candles.
yeah, I don't get that, but I believe
Okay.
you. Yeah. So how about that? Anyway, so there you go, kids. Yeah, 16 grand, which compared to the previous one is absolutely a bargain. So there you go. All right, let's go completely left field. Here we are.
So here's one. I'd be very surprised if anyone can guess this, because this is one of those franchises that hasn't been around for a while. This is the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring autographed and costume collectible set. Now, it's a bit hard to see because, you can't see all the pictures there, but there's basically about 15 autographs and 3 costume cards. So costume cards are when they get a costume that was used in the movie, chop it all up and put little bits into the cards so collectors can own a piece of the movie. So you get the binder, the set of cards, and some costume cards.
According to Moneybag Sullivan, it wasn't one of her candles, it was her jade eggs. So there you go. So, yes. I got no idea. Everybody's talking about candles and eggs and whatever else. So there you go. All right, let's get into it. So Colin has said 25 grand. Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring costume card lot set. So there you go. Got all these dudes in it. What does everybody think for Fellowship of the Ring? Although you'd have to then get one for 2,000 and then another one for Return of the King. Thomas has gone for 85 grand. What does everybody think? Yeah, I like this 2,500 gold rings. Absolutely awesome. So put your prices in, kids. This is our last one for the evening before we move on to something particularly exciting. Rico's gone for 25. I don't know what that 25 is. I assume it's just 25. Moneybag Sullivan's at 35,000. Chrissy's gone for $6.50. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. Ange's at $52. Oh, he's not very optimistic. Gavin's for 42. Again, violating the cast of Lord of the Rings is the Vial at 3,500. Wolf has gone for 30,000. Carol's gone for 67,000. William is at 50,000. Cash on the barrelhead. Absolutely fantastic. Yes, a very, very groovy. 19 bids, kids. Keep that in mind. So there's a bit of competition for this. What does everybody think it went for? Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring autograph costume set with all these dudes. How groovy is this? What do you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping 4,650.
So did Glenn get that at 5,000?
I'll have a look. Anything you want to say about it before I'm having a bit of a dig?
Yeah, I can imagine this being one of those card sets that when the person put the collection together, they were probably paying $2,000 or $3,000 a card for the autographed ones at the height of Lord of the Rings popularity, and they put them all together and auctioned them as a set and probably got 1/10 of what they paid for them and half of what they would have got if they sort of separated them all and sold them separately. So one of those hints, if you collect things like this, it's always going to get you more money if you split it up and sell them separately, rather than sell them like that and someone else will buy them and, pull them all apart and sell them separately, because Ian McKellen or some of those other popular actors are going to go more just as a autograph card by themselves than they will as a whole set of cards with all the other actors.
I like this from the Vial. Yes, one bid to beat them all. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So, yes, and it is a known fact that, yes, once performers pass away, their value does go up a little bit. So,
yeah,
very, very good. But, yes, there you go. I hope everybody enjoyed that. Some weird and wacky shit going on, so which is particularly groovy. Now, funnily enough, we're actually running behind time, which is actually going to put us ahead of time because our segment is going to be shorter than usual. What are we discussing tonight there, Mr. Aaron?
So tonight is our second part of our 3-part look at Irwin Allen TV series, but it's going to be a 4-part look because tonight we were going to be looking at the collecting the fantasy worlds of Irwin Allen, Time Tunnel and Land of the Giants, but because a car smashed into my shop, I couldn't do the Land of the Giants section, so we're just looking at the Time Tunnel stuff that I already had ready to go.
I mean, where's the commitment? I've got to ask. I mean, just whimsical excuses are us. That's what I've got to say. I mean, where's the commitment? You got a throbbing audience hanging out for Land of the Giants, and you've let them down. So there you go.
Isn't it lucky that we've got Greg King and the Vial sending us all this quality content week after week, so we don't have to bother too much about stuff?
Yeah, very, very cool. So there you go. So if you happen to find the dude who drove the car into the shop window, give him a smack in the ear and say, because of you, the Pearl rip it off the card segment was shorter because we missed out on the Land of the Giants. Anyway, so there you go. So, all right, go for it, dude.
Yeah, so there were 4 main television series that Irwin Allen is remembered by. We looked briefly at his overall career when we looked at Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, which was, I think, the first show back this year. So if you want to check that out, you can find that on the Sci-Fi Zone page. Tonight, we're going to look at the Time Tunnel, which was probably...
hang on.
Yep.
I've got to cut you off. See, already Christy's unhappy. She wanted to... You've let the side down, dude. There you go.
I'm
Bloody
sorry.
use it. Just
You know what?
hang your head in shame, son.
At the end of the show, you can tell us how many yawns you had. So, so the Time Tunnel is probably perceived as the least successful of his big four science fiction shows, and that's because it only ran for 1 year. Now, the Time Tunnel, you can see here, had high production values and looked absolutely fantastic. In fact, they used, mats and split screen and huge sets and forced perspective to make it look like the Time Tunnel was a huge complex. In a lot of ways, it reminded me of the Krell City from Forbidden Planet.
That's gross.
So the Time Tunnel was actually one of my favorite shows growing up because I've always loved stuff on time travel. And as a child, I was absolutely enthralled by it. As an adult, you can see some of its shortcomings where a lot of the show is actually stock footage from other movies and things like that. So you'll often see a huge battle of the Napoleonic War or of cowboys and Indians, and then you'll go to Doug and Tony, who land in the time period, and like 3 Indians right up, because that's all the actual TV show can actually afford. So it was popular at the time, though, and was a rating success, and it was kind of cancelled as a bit of a mistake when all of the Irwin Allen shows were cancelled. It's the last year his shows were running. All 4 were running at once. So Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Land of the Giants, Time Tunnel, and Lost in Space. And then they all disappeared with network shakeups. So we're looking at the Time Tunnel tonight. Do you remember the main actors in Time Tunnel, Dags?
Oh, yeah, because I'm looking at them right now, and the picture which I haven't put on the screen yet. The funny thing I found interesting, and you're talking about how the show was made, because they had access to the Fox film library. You're right, if they went back to a sequence in the old Wild West, they could use footage from all these westerns showing tens of thousands of cowboys or Indians, as they were called back then. And then you have on the show the actual actors dealing with our actors, and you splice the two together, and suddenly they're all off screen somewhere, the tens of thousands of throbbing hordes, which is probably a clever way of doing it. But you are right, by today's standards, it wouldn't really work. But you got to do what you got to do, and still, if it gets the point across, and that's the most important thing.
Well, Chad and I watched the Time Tunnel for 8 hours straight today, and it was interesting that a lot of the climaxes to the Time Tunnel are from other movies. So not only was it look great, but it was cheaper to make because you're not filming as much. We watched a cowboy one where probably the last 4 minutes was all this cowboy and Western action, which was absolutely fantastic. And you had Doug and Tony on the cliff overlooking it, and they cut back to them a couple of times, and you'd just be like, oh, this is such a cheap show. And then you've got the Time Tunnel cast. A lot of them are sitting in the control room. And it would have been a boring show to film because they're basically sitting at the controls every single episode, talking about stuff they can't see on the screen. So a lot of the time, I don't think a lot of the cast would have even been acting together.
Yeah, and of course, they wouldn't have been seeing what was editing later on. Rusky Babes has said, I think Doug and Tony could go back in time and stop the car crash. Yes, I love that one. Yes, very, very groovy.
So we've got the main actors from Time Tunnel here, and I think, were you saying to me this is the James Darren, and this is the earliest Darren you could find who was an actor, or am I wrong?
Oh, well, that's a surname. I mean, the first name that I could think of with Darren was Darren McGavin. I don't recall anybody before him being called that. What I found funny is that the guys hardly ever change their outfits. So I don't know which is which, Doug or Tony, but you had the guy in the suit and you had the guy in the green skivvy. And I thought that was just interesting that they never changed their outfits at any point. So, and I also thought it was interesting. Every time I see Leah Merriweather, I keep thinking of it from the Batman movie, So Catania, something rather Alisoff, but her friends call her Kitka.
Well, the interesting little piece of trivia about why they don't change their suits is because they can show the series in any order, and they're always wearing the same clothes, so it doesn't matter. But interestingly enough, they will change in the episode, and if they're wearing Roman gear or something, just before they jump into the Time Tunnel, there's that classic Irwin Allen ping, and they go back into their original clothes that they left in. It's like a really weird plot thing.
Yeah, I mean, Superman, the TV series, had the same thing where they always got like all the main characters wearing exactly the same clothes all the time, so they could shoot any episode out of order. And when they edit it together, the continuity is there. So yeah, that makes complete sense. So yeah, very good.
Yeah. So so there was the key cast of the Time Tunnel, and then they went to different periods in every episode. They had a mixture of sci-fi and historical. So it started where mainly they were sci-fi, historical, and then they changed into your general Irwin Allen monsters and robots and things like that. Now, interestingly, here's some of the titles: Visitors from Beyond the Stars, The End of the World, Chase Through Time. For a time travel show, it's interesting because The Invasion, The Massacre, and The Reign of Terror are also all episodes of Doctor Who. So they've obviously got interchangeable sort of names for different periods in history, which I found pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's always a Doctor Who reference somewhere. The thing I found out, because I only saw bits of the show, but when I was researching it today, there was no final episode. There was no conclusion to the story. It just sort of just stopped. I thought, geez, that would leave your fans hanging on the edge, mate. What's the deal?
The first episode, they visited the Titanic, and the last episode, because they knew the series was ending, they kind of landed them on the Titanic again to do this sort of loop where they could repeat it over and over. Interestingly enough, they tried to bring the time tunnel back twice. Irwin Allen worked with Rod Sterling in the 70s to make a show called Time Travelers, which was based on the time travel, which they made a pilot of and was okay, but didn't get picked up. And then they made the time tunnel again in 2006, and there was a pilot which is apparently so horrible that it has never been shown, but it's an extra on one of the Blu-ray releases.
Very good stuff. There we go. There's one Pussycats cameo for the night. Good.
So here's some of the more interesting protagonists that they wound up against. You can see that the aliens obviously walked straight off the Lost in Space set in the same costumes into Time Tunnel. And one of the few times you ever see anything happening in the Time Tunnel complex is where aliens try to invade and change history and take the technology. You can see there as well, the first episode where they wound up in the last episode was the Titanic. And of course, you've got the a Roman episode, which is an example of some of the historical stuff where, as we were saying, they'd show a fantastic vista from a movie of chariots and Romans or Indians or all this different stuff. And then you'd get five extras and 3 leads that were actually wander on to the set, and they'd have the story like that. So it is interesting. It was probably an expensive looking show because of the sets, but probably quite cheap to make because they could use the film library stuff. So I always enjoyed Time Tunnel, but it only went for 1 season, so it never had a really huge fan base.
So Christy's asked whether Time Tunnel was made before or after Doctor Who. I think it would be concurrently, wouldn't it?
After Doctor Who it was on at the same time. Doctor Who started in 63 and Time Tunnel was 69.
So concurrently is the answer. Yeah. So yes, very, very cool. Very good. Okay.
So what we're looking at tonight, though, is collecting items from the Time Tunnel. Now, the Time Tunnel probably has the least amount of collectibles out of any of the Irwin Allen shows, but that doesn't mean that they're not interesting or hard to find or desirable by collectors. The earliest things I could find in relation to the Time Tunnel was actually, 67, was the press kits. And the press kits are what the studio sends out to different television stations before the series is actually shown. So either the prospective television station will see it, like it, and purchase it, or if they have purchased it, when they're like doing advertising for it, they've got the facts and they've got pictures from it that they can use in the advertising. So up the top left corner there, you've got an original press kit from the 60s, which has various photocopies of facts and figures on the Time Tunnel. And it's also got pictures of the stars. And then you've got a Time Tunnel postcard, which I thought looked quite modern, but is actually from the press kit. So it's one of those things where I think they had such amazing pop culture designers that a lot of the stuff they designed and the titles and the fonts is quite timeless. no pun intended. And then
Good on
we've
you.
got the TV guide for the debut of the Time Tunnel, where it was a popular enough show and a big enough show that it was given a front cover of TV Telegram, which was one of the weekly TV guides in the US. So all of those things I found online. I couldn't find examples to buy, so they must be quite hard to get.
Time tunnel tripsters, yeah, appropriate for the 60s. I totally agree with you. And it's good to see in this picture here, the two guys are both wearing suits, which is
Yes.
kind of groovy, because I always never got the gig with the idea of the green skivvy. I thought they looked a bit on the weird side, but
Yeah.
why not use the time tunnel to redo this? Why not use the time tunnel and redo the season? I don't know. It's just, yeah, I mean, in the end, I mean, similar shows like Quantum Leap and all the rest of it have sort of come and gone, and you could almost say they're inspired by Time Tunnel. But anyway, continue on.
Yeah. So we've looked at board games before, and the board games from this era are particularly evocative of the era. They're colourful. They use great artwork. Usually they've got an artist, probably a house artist from Ideal or one of the board game companies that usually gets a lot of promo pictures and gets an idea of what the game is about, and then goes to town on some wild, amazing artwork. And then when you get the board game and it's sort of an updated version of Snakes and Ladders, you've totally been fooled by the artist that's made it look 100 times better on the cover. I think the Time Tunnel adapts great as a game because the artist can just go to town and put whatever. You've got the Titanic, you've got dinosaurs, you've got the bombing of Pearl Harbor, you've got cowboys and Indians. Really anything from history you can put on the cover to make the game look interesting and exciting. It really is just a game of spinning a dial and moving around the board, collecting stuff from different time zones. So not very different from any of the other board games, but still an impressive looking one if you collect that kind of thing.
I love the idea when someone has a fun factoid and they get their own factoids wrong. So Rusky Babe said it started in 67, then changed it to 66. So, yeah. Eventually you're going to catch up with Doctor Who. So absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that looks really, really groovy. I've got to admit, yeah, the color scheme in that is pretty groovy. And for kids, they would have been sucked right into that. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. And there was a few Time Tunnel, for something that was only around for a year, actually captured the imagination of board game creators and game creators, because there was a few different ones. And usually when there's different ones, you might get some from Spain or Japan, but there were a few US ones. And this is the Time Tunnel Spin to Win, which is one of those, you know, you spin the balls around game and you try and land it in different sectors to get, you know, different points, which I thought was quite good because they've actually used the Time Tunnel design as incorporated into the actual game, where a lot of these game cash-ins have nothing to do with the actual show at all other than being called the same name. And then there's the Time Tunnel card game as well. And again, they've used a lot of images of different characters from history. And it's like a game of fish, really, but with the Time Tunnel. But it is good that at least they've used the premise of the show and made the game around it, rather than a lot of these games where they just whack the name on and it has nothing to do with it apart from the box art kind of thing. So the Time Tunnel doesn't have a lot of collectibles, but what there is, if you're a fan, is pretty cool.
So what do you reckon the value would be for the game if you had a complete version of that? I mean, does it hold its value, or is it sort of there's just not enough interest in it?
Well, because I've looked into all this stuff, I've been going, I'd really like a Time Tunnel board game. And you're looking at about $250 US for a nice complete one. So by the time you land it, you're probably looking at, you know, $350, $400 to get one, which is a lot of the board games from that era do go for around that price if they're complete in nice condition. So you're not going to get one much cheaper.
Yeah, I would have thought there's two factors. One is you probably didn't. I mean, they would have sold some, but it's not like Monopoly or Scrabble. They would have sold millions of them, and getting them complete would be a bit of an ask. So yeah, I can sort of see that sort of price working. I think it's the kind of thing that a lot of people would say, "Oh, I remember it, I love it, it's great, but I don't want it." You know, it just doesn't appeal to me. But it's good to see if they are available that they're still around, and if they're complete and in good nick, that's good to see.
Yeah. Well, the Time Tunnel didn't do so well as a comic book. We saw with Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea that it was very successful and ran. The Time Tunnel they released, and there was only 2 issues. And this surprises me because you would think as a comic book series, the Time Tunnel would offer so much more to work with than something like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, where you're in a submarine every single issue, where they can go to anywhere in time and space. And you can see the first issue has dinosaurs, and then they've got, everything from the World War II Nazis and space rockets and stuff like that. It just must not have captured the kids' imaginations at the time and not sell for only 2 issues to be produced. It must have had pretty low circulation. And before you ask, the comics haven't really held their value. You can pick up both issues in nice condition in auction for about $25 to $50 for both issues.
That's interesting, because you could have an instant comic collection of the Time Tunnel and get both issues, and people say, I've got every single issue ever produced, and you just got the 2.
Yeah.
Couple of questions have come. That would be kind of funny, isn't it? It's funny how you can play with people's minds. Oh my God, the collection must be huge. It's like, nah, it's only 2 issues. Couple of things that have come through, questions. Colin has made a point of saying the Time Tunnel will make a great reboot on Netflix. Not necessarily, because you could do a time traveling show. I think that's a kind of, like, even La Brea at the moment is a time traveling show where people go back to the prehistoric era or whatever. But if you tried to copy the exact storyline, it wouldn't necessarily work. I don't think the style would fit today.
Time travel has a really interesting premise. All the shows today have people going through time to try and change a historical event or try and change. Time Tunnel, they made it really implicitly 100% certain they couldn't change history. No matter what they did, they would think they would stop the Titanic from sinking. They think they'd stop General Custer from dying at his last stand. History always played out exactly as they knew it, so they were only observers. And that's maybe why it wasn't so exciting, because the viewers knew you couldn't change. They were never going to change anything.
Yeah, you're right. So if they're trying to change a bad part of history, and of course they don't change it, you do wonder, well, what's the point? And if that happened every single time, you'd already know the answer of the episode before you actually got to the end of the episode. Gavin has asked, early board games used colourful artwork. Were there any ones that used photos? Off the top of my head, I'm going to assume there wouldn't be many, if any.
There's not many. I know the Addams Family one has a painted Addams Family house, and then I'm pretty sure at all the windows it has photos of the Addams Family. But you're right, Gavin, most of them have artwork, and I actually think they're better for it because they're sort of more imaginative.
And they kind of did it because they're aimed at children, and the colours and all the rest of it. People gravitate to picture artwork more than photographs. Yeah. Was there ever a movie, a time tunnel movie? No, I don't believe there would have been. Is that correct? No.
No, I don't even think there's been a movie called Time Tunnel that wasn't, associated. I don't think there's ever been one. So no.
Yep. Roski Babes has said Sliders was kind of a sort of time tunnel remake. Yeah, exactly right. There are time traveling shows around, but no, nothing that specifically relates to the time tunnel itself. Anyway, so very, very groovy.
So of course there is the adaptations of the books, and the Time Tunnel only had about 3, although they did do different ones in different languages, and there's some different versions of the Time Tunnel, and then Time Slip, which is interesting because there's another show called Time Slip, but Time Slip book, this is a Time Tunnel series book. You can see from the cover, it's got the Time Tunnel on it. The Time Tunnel book was actually quite a successful paperback, and there were many different editions, and the show lasted for a year, but it was in print for about 10 years with various editions and various imprints in different countries. So although it didn't do well as a show, there was popularity with it outside the television screen.
Hang on, there's a good comment here. We're talking about how, like, doing the show again in modern times. Rusky Bays has mentioned that they couldn't change it, like using stock footage. And you are right. If you're going to do a time show, we go back to historical events. That footage has to come from somewhere, and as a result, that makes the show unbelievably expensive. And so it's funny. Like, as of right now, we're talking about the time tunnel. Everybody's really in the zone. Everybody's watching this show, and they're getting really into it. Once we're finished, people just forget it again. So it was a product of its time in the 60s. It did its thing. Everybody watched it at the time as kids, loved it, but it's not the kind of thing that's memorable. It's not going to be at the top of the list of people saying, oh, name your best Irwin Allen productions or time traveling productions, and it probably just won't be up there. So,
not many people.
It's part of history.
It is interesting from watching the show. Every single show of Time Tunnel is basically the same. They land in a time period that there's just about to be some major event. They tell a couple of people they're time travelers, so they don't believe them, and they arrest them. And then they spend the whole episode trying to get away so they're not killed in the event. And that happens episode after episode after episode. It's either Krakatoa or the Titanic sinking or invaded by the Indians or something like that. But you can understand that after a while people would go, I've seen this before. I've seen this before.
Although, if your target audience is younger people, back then obviously they weren't as sophisticated as now, putting it simply. They would have loved it. Whereas today, people be too quick to analyze and judge. And because there's been so many time traveling sort of shows, and I don't mean Doctor Who, but some of these other ones, people are going to sit there and pick it apart almost like straight away. So, by the same token, you're right. If you watch the Time Tunnel today to a modern audience, they're going to go, mate, that's complete tripe. We can see all the faults. And as a result, it was made at the right time. It was successful for its time, as you said. I only went for one season, and we just should celebrate that, which is the most important thing. Very cool.
So this is an interesting piece. This is a Japanese flexi-disc comic. So you've got the comic book that comes with a flexi-disc. And then, of course, like any of those storybook comics that we've had growing up, you read the comic and follow along with the record. So I don't know if it's in Japanese or if it's in English. I presume that it would be in Japanese, as it was aimed for kids on the Japanese market. Now, I thought this was absolutely fantastic and would be impossible to get. So I had a quick look on eBay, and there was one on eBay America for 150 US, which I kind of thought about for a second and then thought, no, I better not. I get in too much trouble. But that's an old, well, it does look like that. The Japanese comics are interesting because they've got that Japanese aesthetic that uses the kaiju and the monsters and the Ultraman type stuff and then mixes it with the popular American shows. The Time Tunnel, I think, works really well as a Japanese comic because a lot of those comics you can't tell what they are, but the Time Tunnel is so evocative, being the concentric rings, that you can tell it's a time tunnel comic when you look at them.
And of course, the show is so popular, it ended up being the logo for Aaron's Collectables. So how good's that? Very good.
It did. We've even got an ad that uses the opening title sequence. So this is another one of the Japanese comics across the top. And there's comic book anthologies in Japan that have a whole lot of different stories in them that might run for 4 or 5 pages each. And this is one of the ones that has the time tunnel. And you can see it's in black and white, but not black and white. It's in like purple and white, the print, and then some really lovely coloured art. And then down the bottom, I found this incredibly surprising. These are new publications where someone on Amazon and Etsy and a couple of other platforms has taken each episode of the Time Tunnel. They have made like the Star Trek photo novels out of them, where they've kind of taken each photo and processed it so it's like got this art look to it rather than a straight photograph, and then they've basically arranged them into a comic book. And I don't know if they're official, but they were online and you could buy them now, which I thought was quite interesting for a franchise like the Time Tunnel, which I thought was well and truly forgotten about, and you couldn't even find any current merchandise. So that was a bit of a surprise. So there was old comics, Japanese comics, and there's also a new graphic novel, and they had done every single episode, so you could buy the whole series.
Be kind of funny if the books end up becoming more popular than the series because people could use their imagination and they weren't limited by the quality of the show. So yeah, very good.
So here's one where Russell's mind is going to blow. I'd be really interested to know if he's had any of these. There were 2 Time Tunnel labs, so Operation TikTok, which is the name of the Time Tunnel project. There was actually 2 model kits made in the 60s by Japanese model kit makers. Now, I think the one that is particularly cool is the one in the bottom center made out of blue and light blue plastic, which is actually a projector where you put the model together of the Time Tunnel, and then it comes with slides from different episodes, and you can put them through the back of the Time Tunnel and project them, which I think is quite ingenious for a toy of the time. It's like combining a model kit and a give a show projector, which is very, very cool. Now, these are incredibly hard to find. I found pictures online, but I could not find one for sale.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. If you could finding one of those would be an absolute like major spin out, especially if you find items that you didn't even know existed. So yeah, that's particularly groovy. Well done.
Now, Time Tunnel was one of those shows that did get some merchandise overseas. In particular, we're looking at the Japanese stuff. So I thought a lot of these cards were modern, but it turns out the ones on the left were a Japanese card set that came out in the 60s. Down the bottom, those discs are Argentinian vintage discs. Now, the interesting thing about these, during the 2000s, a whole lot of really rare retro stuff started turning up in Argentina. So there'd be spinning tops and puzzle games and badges and discs and stuff like this, all saying they were from the 60s. There's even Doctor Who ones. Turns out, though, they're pretty much all current ones that some, I guess, entrepreneurial people over there have whacked out and said, oh, yeah, these are from the 60s, and whacked them on eBay. And then, of course, people buy them and, you know, they're sort of then said they're from the 60s, but they're not really. So I'm not sure on these ones. I couldn't find much information, but I'm pretty sure I've seen some Doctor Who sets that look very similar that said they were from the 60s, but they're actually modern sort of counterfeits.
Yeah, I've come across a crowd in Argentina who produce a lot of their own merchandise. It's totally unofficial, but hey, at least they're producing something. And if it's like, hey, look, so long as you know it's fake, it's not official, it's a bit of shits and giggles, no problem at all. But yeah, there seems to be producing a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I'm not surprised. It looks old, looks retro, but the reality is it's brand new. But you know, it's better than nothing. So yeah.
And the good thing is they're selling it pretty cheap. They're not saying this is from the 60s, so it's $500. They're like, this is from the 60s, so it's $19. So if you really think it's from the 60s, it's one of those, it's too good to be true kind of things.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as you see it's sold from Argentina, you know straight away they made their own merchandise. So yeah, good on them too.
Like the Book of the Dead, it still smells new. Now, here's some really interesting sets. I had never seen these, and I think they're incredibly cool, even though I would love them. They take up a lot of room. These are the Time Tunnel laser discs. They did a really amazing laser disc 2-box sets of half the series each that had, you know, all of the episodes spread over about 15 or 16 discs. And so you could get the whole thing, which is interesting because Time Tunnel never had a VHS release. A lot of those series from Irwin Allen, you could get Lost in Space and you could get Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I don't know if there was Land of the Giants, but there definitely wasn't Time Tunnel VHS because I recorded them off air and hoped they would release them, and they didn't. There's also a 80s and 90s soundtrack there of the Time Tunnel on CD, and they have actually released both series on DVD. I don't know if they've done the Blu-rays of them, and there's a couple of international editions too where they were released in Chile and Brazil and Argentina, and I'm sure there's a Japanese set, but I didn't come across that. So it is still well enough remembered that it has got a physical media release globally, and you can track down the Time Tunnel and watch it on physical media if you're after copies of it.
I like this one. Yeah, they financed a TikTok project by sending 60s collectibles into the future. Yeah, well, exactly right. Genius. So very good stuff. Yeah, so that's particularly groovy. That's actually the end of the presentation because, as we know, Aaron came up with some bullshit excuse of having a car crash into his store today, so he didn't finish everything else off. So there you go.
Yep, so we're finishing 15 minutes early. Next week, for anyone who is particularly into the Land of the Giants, we'll be looking at the Land of the Giants, and that has some fantastic merchandise too. I'm sorry that we couldn't get it all finished tonight, but yeah, just circumstances were against me.
Yeah, I'm thinking you're going to send it through a message next Wednesday saying, oh, motorcycle has gone through the front windscreen now. Couldn't get the slides done on time. So there you go. Mark is still hanging out for a bit of the old Docky Who. Absolutely fantastic. So there you go. All right, believe it or not, it's, hang on. Is this yawns? You have to actually tell us. Sorry, Christy, we can't actually, what we're reading, we can't see it on Facebook. I think it's, I don't know how many yawns out of 10. So
I think that's two yawns out of 10. So I don't know if that's two out of 10. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the less yawns, the better the show. So there you go. That's how it works. Because the more she yawns, the more boring we are. So yes.
And Christy, we love you so much better than William, who just says, "Hi guys, I'm off to watch another show."
Yeah, exactly right. So there you go. Very, very cool. Yeah, actually, that's a good point, Gavin. There, the car should have been a DeLorean. Wouldn't that have been the funniest thing ever? So, but yes, the old Time Tunnels out there. Check it out if you haven't done so already. But be aware, yes, it was made in the 60s, and they did do things a bit on the cheap. But hey, it was a bit of entertainment, a bit of fun, a bit of shits and giggles, and there you go. Yes, right, Mark. The Viofile. Yes, well, that's always here to put smiles on some dials, even if it's all for the wrong reasons. Any final words before we sign off for this evening, Mr. Aaron?
No, just thanks for everyone being with us tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks for sitting here with us.
Yeah, and make sure you pop into the store when you can and cheer Aaron up and put a smile on his dial because they can certainly need it, that's for sure. So there you go. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week. And in the interim, keep all your your shop windows in their panes.
And I would actually agree with Dags. Keep the Book of the Dead in the box and not release the smell.
Absolutely fantastic. All right, we'll leave you to it. We'll see you next week, guys. Bye
Have
for
a good
now.
night, guys. See you.